bottom line is the board appreciates the work that and the cooperation between the Commonwealth and the county, and encourages that cooperation to continue as the project's both inside and outside develop.
Thank you, sir. I want to notice that we did up front let people know that you had that meeting, and there'll be public comment tomorrow if anybody from the county wants to come there too also.
Right,
thank you. Cindy, I think it's Nelgat, and then Cheryl Rowland. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Sorry about that. Actually, it's Cindy Nelson.
I apologize.
That's okay. It was just chicken scratch, so it was hard to read. Sorry, that's my fault. Good evening. I oppose the I-66 proposal for inside and outside the Beltway for many reasons. First, I don't believe that expanding the HOV times will ease congestion. 1, 2, 3, 4 hours is just not going to do the trick. Second, the tolls are a tax for the wealthy. I don't know how people are going to be able to afford $5,000 to $10,000 a year in tolls. This area is already super expensive, and I believe these tolls are really outrageous. People will be jumping onto the already crowded arteries of Route 50, Lee Highway, and Washington Boulevard to avoid these tolls. This will impact the counties of Fairfax, Arlington, and Falls Church. I want to know if there have been any studies or research done on how this overflow traffic will impact school traffic in those counties. With so many commuters on these arteries, how will the school buses carrying our children make it to school safely and timely? I still don't understand how Metro will be a safety net and viable option for commuters who don't want to pay tolls. The platforms are already packed, as well as the trains during rush hour. The trains run every 6 to 8 minutes, oftentimes even in rush hour. Metro is unreliable, it's unsafe, and the safety net is just not going to cut it. I've attended a few past meetings and asked questions to VDOT representatives. They can't answer my questions and look at me like deer caught in the headlights. Everyone is making important comments and asking tough questions. You all should recognize that this proposal has too many unknowns and has not been thought out properly. Until all questions and comments have been addressed, this proposal should not go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Cheryl Rowland, and then Michael Carrera. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Unlike many of these residents, I've only been in Virginia 5 years. And I grew up in the state in the Union that has the best interstate highway system in the Union, and that is Ohio. In Cuyahoga County, one county alone, we have 3 freeways that run east to west. We have 3 freeways that run north to south. We have transit system, we have public transportation routes that allow folks. I can walk down my street and in 15 minutes be on a bus and 15 minutes later be at the airport, taking the bus for a 10-minute ride and then taking a train for the other 15 minutes to be at the airport. We were one of the first states that had a transit system going from the airport to downtown, and anyone who visits there is always impressed with how easy it is to come in and out of the area. My commute here is the same as the commute was back home from my house to downtown. Back home, 15 minutes during non-rush hour, half an hour during rush hour. I commute from Manassas, which we all know is on WTOP traffic, every morning. That commute goes to Chantilly. I could ride a bicycle, and in fact in Ohio I rode my bike to work. Same distance, 30 minutes. I can't ride a bike here because I would have to go through the battlefield, and it's a narrow 2-lane road. There's absolutely no way for me to ride a bike through there. But yet I'm strong enough and healthy enough, and I would prefer to just ride a bike to work, but I can't. So I have to drive, and I sit at various intersections for 10, 15, 20 minutes. Many times I sit through a light twice. My range of my commute can be anywhere from an hour and a half to as long as 4 hours. To me, I can drive from my home to Pittsburgh in 4 hours, but I can't drive from Manassas to Chantilly. Now, I'm from an area that has some of the best regional planning around. Nothing is decided without it going through Regional Planning Commission. Just in the short time I've lived here, I've looked at Route 28, and I know the bottlenecks in Prince William. In fact, most of your bottlenecks are in Prince William. So you all need to increase your dialogue with that county board and maybe even possibly teach them. They have several new board members about urban and regional planning because they're not doing it. If you go down 28, Dulles was built before that area built out.
Need to wrap up, please,
I will
ma'am.
wrap up. There are very few buildings that predate Dulles. If there was regional planning in this area, that would have been mapped out as your next highway north-south. I would encourage you to assess making that an interstate as opposed to making 66 wider and wider and wider. Do your transit expansion. Encourage slugging, because you have it down south, but you don't have it out west. And see if that doesn't help you, at least initially. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Michael Carrera, and then I think it's Eric Yang. Good morning. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Secretary Lane, and everyone from the Commonwealth Transportation Board for having this meeting. My name is Michael Carrera. I'm a council member in the city of Manassas Park. Secretary Lane, as you know, you received a resolution in opposition to tolling inside of 66. Manassas Park unanimously passed it. Prince William County unanimously passed it. Loudoun County unanimously passed it. The representation of those three jurisdictions is 800,000 people, 10% of the state population, almost over 50% of the regional population. We're in opposition to it. We ask that this body reflect that representation and vote against tolling inside of 66. I want you just to think about something real quick. $17 a day, $4,000 a year. The people who are working class in this region, who make 50,000, what do they have to give up from their table at night to pay that just to get to work? So I strongly ask you to vote against tolling inside of 66, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Eric Yang, and then Robert Baer. Good evening.
Thank you for allowing me here. My name is Eric Yan. I'm a professional engineer, and also I'm a resident in Vienna, Virginia. I'm opposed with this widening 66 project because I deeply believe this doesn't really solve the problem. As other people has mentioned, trapping the traffic, and also encourage more people on the road. And I think also in terms of the greenhouse emission, this, with all the construction efforts, impact, and this will generate a lot of greenhouse emissions. As I lived here over 9 years, myself, I never really intend to use toll road at all. Mentally, we all have to avoid it because it's a high price. And only being there, the 495 express line once, I've been charged for about $20, including all these administration fees, even though I was only maybe about a half mile or 1 mile distance. So my coworkers as well, they all had been mentally saying how to avoid this 495 or the tollets. So I can see that if you have this toll road building with I-66, the people will go all these different neighborhoods, and it just creates more traffic, and the residents will be more suffering with little kids around. The neighborhood will be not safe at all. And also I want to show you a petition. We have over 250 people as a resident that just signed as a petition. This is the beautiful play yard in the Stanwood Elementary. And as you see, the tree over there was, you can't really just wait for another 10 or 20 years to growing back. It's another 50 or 100 years. So as you see the impact there around the Sunway, especially near the outside of I-66, down Loring Wood areas, those I-66 trees, if you can touch those sun walls and also you're going to remove those trees, all these trees and those green barriers will be gone and we'll be suffering with the noise, and it will create a bigger impact in our neighborhood. And so as also this petition, we are advocating to preserve to existing green forest and also the existing sun wall along I-666. This will also avoid greater construction costs and also will create a green barriers, especially during the summertime for us. We really hope you consider our comments, and thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Robert Bayer. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Bill. Thank you very much for coming out. And first off, I want to thank those on the board that aren't playing on your cell phones and paying attention to all of these people that are speaking. And those of you that are on your cell phones, I hope that your family is okay or that your notes don't misquote anyone. One thing I can't understand, and no one out of all of the meetings I've been to have been able to explain to me, is this about making money or is this about removing vehicles from the road? Because we can do a quick test right here. We have 4 doors. If we line 2 people up, or we make 4 lines, 4 lines will empty this room a lot faster. The next thing, moving all of these people off of 66 once you make it down to 3 lanes. Anyone that's not driven on, whoever's written your notes, hasn't been on 50, 29 during any of these peak hours, because those roads suck too during those hours. Next of all, you want to move 10 to 20,000 people off of the road, off of 66 and go to alternative transportation, and I commend you on that. The problem I have with that is in anything that I've read, there's nothing about buying 100 new buses. There's nothing about taking all these metro stations. We'll take Vienna, for example, because all of those people coming from Prince William will stop at Vienna. You can't park there now, and you're trying to move 10 to 20,000 people between buses and metro and off of the road. So you can't tell me it's about moving bodies. It's all about money. There's no way that you can convince anyone with any type of education that this isn't about making money and that you're trying to move vehicles or trying to move bodies. There's no physical way you can do it right now because there's nothing in your notes that say that we're going to buy all of these buses, that we're going to run more trains, that we're going to add several different layers to these parking garages at Dunloring, at Vienna. So where are you going to put these 10,000 cars once they do get there? Where are these people going to park? That means you need more bus stops because all these people are going to have to park somewhere. I live in a community where my front end has 200 cars that I'm trying to work being the president of my HOA, trying to get the county to take care of because there's 200 cars at the front of my community that that Fairfax County owns because they're at the bus. That bus stop right in front of my community. I commend you for trying to move vehicles and trying to move people into DC and on traffic. But this is ludicrous. There's no physical way in any of your notes that prove that. My name is Rob Baer. I'm a business owner and a homeowner in Fairfax, Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Baer. That is all of the speakers that I have signed up, but is there anyone else this evening, we will continue tomorrow, that would like to speak to the group before we suspend? Yes, Mr. Chase. We'll start you over, Mr. Chase.
Secretary, I'll have a few remarks tomorrow morning, but I just
Yes.
want to say you were in my neighborhood. I've lived here in this area for 40 years. And I would tell you that I-66 is so unreliable throughout the day that if my family and I go to Arlington or to DC, we generally cut through Arlington neighborhoods because you just cannot rely upon I-66. A couple years ago, I addressed a civic federation in North Arlington, and a gentleman who lived there for 40 years stood up near Yorktown High School and said, you know, before I-66 inside the Beltway was built, our neighborhood streets were racetracks. Everybody from Fairfax County was cutting through our neighborhoods to go to work, to go places. When I-66 opened up, we got our neighborhood back. People stopped cutting through our neighborhood. The longer we wait to widen that road, the more impacts there are going to be in residential communities. I mean, you can model this any way you want, but modeling 101 tells you that the more capacity you provide on interstates, the more traffic you take off neighborhood streets. Widening I-66 will induce traffic onto I-66, but that means there's less traffic in the neighborhood. The longer you keep I-66 in its current configuration, the more we force people into neighborhoods. So it's